Hello everyone, we are here, Team Mohammed Yunus. We are here to give Malaysia is the fourth largest economy in Southeast Asia, the first three being Indonesia, Thailand, and Philippines, and it is also the 35th in the world. Malaysia is also the third richest in Southeast Asia by GDP per capita value after Indonesia and Philippines. One of the main drivers of the economic growth of Malaysia is the buying power of the Malaysian citizens. Malaysia's demographic transition is at a very nascent stage when compared to the other Asian countries. Attention should also be paid to the fact that now let's look into the history of the Malaysian ringgit. The Malaya and British Bruno dollar was used in Malaya after its independence in 1957, and it was also used in Malaysia after its formation in 1963, and as well as in Singapore after its independence in 1965. During 1967, the two countries, Malaysia and Singapore and Brunei, ended the common currency agreement and began issuing their own currency. In 1993, the current symbol RM was introduced to replace the use of the dollar sign. Right now, we know that the effect of the US President, Mr. Donald Trump, the Trumponomics, it's expected to play a huge role in influencing currency rates worldwide. So, as per today, one Malaysian ringgit is equal to 14.77 Indian rupees, and one Malaysian ringgit is equal to zero point 0.3 US dollars. So, let's talk about why the Malaysian ringgit started depreciating. The first point being the Malaysian ringgit was strongly supported by the oil prices back then. From 2010 to 2014 was considered to be the golden period where the prices started elevating from $80 to $110. Since the oil prices started crashing down in mid 2014 and started crashing in mid 2014 and it crashed to an all-time low of $27 in January 2015, the ringgit also went into a headlong plummet.
Malaysia introduced the Goods and Services Tax, the GST, of 6% on April 1st, 2015, replacing the sales tax and the service tax rates that were at 10% and 6% respectively. After the implementation of GST, the Consumer Price Index was expected to decrease by 0.10%, which would reduce the buying capacity of Malaysians. Salaries have not been rising as fast as cost of living, which causes difficulty for Malaysians to support themselves. High cost of living will lead to decreasing standard of living. On a positive note, the reduction in the business costs will make the local products and services more competitive in the domestic and international markets. The political scenario. So, what began as a domestic graft affair has become an international outcry as the uncovering of the incident has gained traction all over the world. As we know, on 3rd July 2015, that about 700 million USD that must have moved through the government agencies for development of Malaysia ended up in an account bearing the name of the then Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak. The currency has hit an all-time low of 3.9 ringgit per dollar due to the political instability. International investors have pulled 11.7 billion Malaysian ringgit out of the Malaysian shares, and the FTSE Bursa Malaysia KLCI index has fallen by 3.8%. With Malaysian politics experiencing an extreme form of competitive restructuring, broader forms of engagement that include civil leaders are more essential than ever. The contribution of the oil and gas industry to the Malaysian economy is significant. In 2014, crude oil, condensates, and gas constituted the second largest exports after electrical and electronic goods and contributed up to 20% to the economy of gross domestic product in recent years. In the 40 years following its incorporation, Petronas itself has contributed a staggering 881 billion Malaysian ringgit to the government's coffers in the form of dividends, royalties, duties, and taxes. As explained earlier, lower prices lower oil prices have also exerted pressure on Malaysia's external trade, which has recorded a negative growth in the first 5 months of 2015. Though China remains to be Malaysia's largest trading partner with total trade of 85.83 billion Malaysian ringgit for January to May 2015, and hence Malaysia's economy could still feel the heat of the slowdown.
Now that we have seen what triggered the depreciation, let's see how it affected the Malaysian economy. There are numerous macro components which gets impacted due to depreciating currency. We would like to address four important components out of it as far as Malaysian economy is concerned. Impact on import. For a country with a depreciating currency, the foremost thing that gets affected is imports. Reason is simple. You need to pay more than what you paid for the same item last time. If you are a manufacturer relying on imported raw materials, your input cost goes up and you are forced to increase the selling price too. Hence, you either try to avoid import or import less. The graph clearly shows the trend which reflects the same for Malaysia. You can clearly see the increasing growth trend until the beginning of 2015 and affected growth rate in the period where the depreciation increased. Now let's look at the impact on GDP growth rate. Malaysia continued enjoying a healthy growth rate since world recession in 2008 until beginning of 2015. The depreciation brought down the growth rate from over 5.7% in 2014 to 4.3 at the end of 2015. As you can see from the graph, as on fourth quarter of 2016, the growth was still at 4.5%, not recovering from the hit due to continuing depreciation of ringgit. Impact on forex reserves. One component that was severely hit due to ringgit's fall was Malaysia's forex reserves. It came down as much as 35% post depreciation. Malaysia did slide 4 times as fast as those in Indonesia, whose rupiah is the second worst performing currency next to ringgit. This just shows how much impact it had due to depreciation. Essentially, the key point is that central banks can sell forex reserves to boost the value of their domestic currencies. Large forex reserve means a nation has a lot of ammunition to defend its currency. Hence, diminishing forex reserve is a worrying factor for Malaysia when its currency is already depreciating. Then finally, the impact on inflation. We just saw how depreciation impacted the imports. When the ringgit experiences depreciation, the cost of imported goods will increase as mentioned earlier. The use of raw materials from foreign markets will also contribute to inflation caused by imported goods. As a result, domestic producers are forced to sell their goods on a higher price to sustain the increased cost of operation. The inflation rate peaked at 4.2% at the height of depreciation, as you can point out from the graph. The depreciation of currency is not only bane but also boon for the country in some respects. Let's see some of the areas where depreciation made positive impact. Impact on export. A weak ringgit acted as a stimulus to the Malaysian businesses as it had become more affordable for foreign markets to purchase Malaysian made goods. Export oriented businesses enjoyed higher sales volume and profit. The increment in exports for some economic sectors were observable. As you can see from the graph, export peaked to a new level in 2015 when compared to the trend of the last 10 years. The tourism industry. The depreciation of ringgit will continue to boost tourist arrivals in Malaysia. When the currency weakens, foreign tourists with stronger currencies can spend more in the country. In short, Malaysia becomes much more affordable to the tourists. This will boost the domestic economy since tourism industry is 6th largest contributor to Malaysia's GDP. Finally, the impact on FDI. The falling ringgit made investment in Malaysia more welcoming. A weak ringgit will encourage foreigners to invest through FDI and foreign investment portfolio as it is cheaper to operate and buy stocks and bonds in Malaysia respectively. While the effects of capital flow generated by foreign investment portfolio is not immediately felt by the citizens, FDI can generate employment opportunities in the market as multinational companies will build new facilities to conduct businesses in the country. As you can see from the graph, FDI peaked during the depreciation. Now that we have seen both positive and negative impacts of depreciation, let's look at the steps taken by Central Bank of Malaysia to control it.
These are the steps taken by central bank to boost Malaysian ringgit. The central bank took several measures at the end of Q4 2015, which allowed exporters to retain up to 25% of export proceeds in a foreign currency, while the remainder must be converted into ringgit, which accumulates higher foreign exchange reserves, which can provide a safeguard against further weakness in the ringgit, as well as prevent an excessive speculation in the foreign exchange market. And also the bank said that foreign currency arising from conversion of export proceeds will be used to ensure continuous liquidity of foreign currency in the the onshore market. In addition to that, imbalances in the domestic foreign exchange market have improved while the ringgit's volatility has also reduced. And also, legal action was taken on several foreign banks that were severely fined for being involved in manipulative price fixing. One of the important steps taken by central bank to boost Malaysian ringgit is the reduction of overnight policy rate. The overnight policy rate is an overnight interest rate set by BNM used for monetary policy direction. It is the target rate for the day-to-day liquidity operations of the BNM. On July 13th of 2016, BNM reduced the overnight policy rate to 3%, citing rising risk from Britain's exit from the European Union. The ceiling and floor rates of the corridor for the overnight policy rate were reduced to 3.25% and 2.75%. This reduction gave the stock market a boost. From the graph shown below, we can see a rise in the Malaysian GDP growth rate from 0.7% on July 2016 to 1.4% on Jan 2017 because of the reduction in the overnight policy rate.
By now, we all know why Malaysian currency is devaluated and what measures have been taken by central government of Malaysia. But still, there is a long way to go. There are a few recommendations to strengthen the currency from our side. For any country, leaders and the perception about the leader are a very important factor. If you see the image of Prime Minister Najib, it is not very good neither within Malaysia nor with foreign investors. Needless to say about the scandals around the current government, we think Malaysia needs to follow India's route to create a global image. Take for example Narendra Modi, how he has built relations with countries like UK and US, initiatives like Make in India and allowing 100% foreign direct investments, which has gained the local and international investors' confidence. Next important factor is GST. Malaysia's major share of income comes from domestic consumption. A country cannot afford to lose its domestic revenue. It is very evident that post GST implementation, the domestic consumption has come down significantly in Malaysia. Therefore, we recommend to reduce GST rate. We have given different options at various rates. This model is created to make sure that government doesn't lose out tax revenue. Basically, once you reduce the price of any good, the consumption is likely to increase. Also, it creates an overall wave across the nation, and the high consumption cycle is likely to continue over a long period of time. If you see the below table, once we reduce the tax from 5%, 6% to 5%, which is 17% cut, which the consumption is likely to go up by 20%, and the government will be getting the same quantum of revenue, which is 600. This is major reason for currency depreciation is the allocation of capital. A typical mistake which most government does when they are in crisis or when they foresee crisis is announcing big projects. During crisis period, government needs to prioritize where they need to spend money because the world is watching and the impact should be immediate and definitely positive. Recently, Malaysian government has announced high-speed train which needs million of dollar investments. Already, Malaysia being a well-developed nation and has a good infrastructure, this project will no way boost the economy. All big projects, lifetime is minimum 5 years and huge capital is being locked for such a long time and the payback period is definitely more than 10 years. Government needs to think and decide where it wants to spend money. We strongly recommend the money should be allocated to incentivize industries like developing free zones to boost production or reducing income tax and GST to boost consumption. And finally, reducing the policy rate. Once the central government cuts the lending rate, funds become cheaper and more money is available for the people and thereby naturally